updated green card system for people who are coming from all over the world? I mean, has that whole nature of how we integrate people for short-term employment or even, their graduated sense of bringing their families, how is that affecting the communities that you serve?
Well, there's a couple of changes that are happening. I think it's going to be a while before we're going to see some significant change. And I'm not a U.S. immigration lawyer. I'm a Canadian immigration lawyer. But what I can say is that there is an understanding that the H-1B, which is one of the non-immigrant work classifications, that it needs some work, that it needs some reform. That people are coming here. They're very highly educated, highly skilled. They're filling roles, but then they get acclimated here, and their kids are in schools, and their husbands or their wives have dependent visas, and so there is discussion about ways and the need to extend that to be a more welcoming to the family class. So I think that discussion is happening, and there will be change, but I can't identify when.
It looked like for a moment here we were going to get some comprehensive immigration reform. I'm chagrined to think that now we may not have that moment, and it goes back to where we were perhaps a year ago, at least on the U.S. side. How can we do what we can to facilitate the welcoming of immigrants, both high skill and I always argue for all immigrants are economic drivers. But so what from the Chamber's perspective or other perspectives can we realistically try to press forward on that do bring more talent into the region, including immigrant talent?
Yeah, so this is something that was really disappointing for us, Great Lakes Manufacturing Council, Great Lakes Metro, and our individual chambers. Ed and I were just talking about it over lunch, what we thought were kind of chances for immigration reform. I'm really hopeful in the spring. One of our kind of home New York State senators, Senator Schumer, we've been working with him.
Working on him?
Trying to work on him. But we've been working with him on immigration reform for years now, and we were very excited on some of the things that we saw on H-1B. We think it's critical to the Great Lakes economy. I know we've had some unique proposals about high-skilled immigration zones around some really powerful metros in the Great Lakes economy that we think could be a neat pilot program if the federal government would support that. I know my chamber, we've been very supportive also of H-2A reform, seasonal agricultural.
What's H-2A?
Those are for seasonal agricultural workers. Again, big economic drivers. I think across the Great Lakes, we're a huge agribusiness economy, and I think the narrative around some of those, what is called low-skilled or seasonal ag jobs, is just incorrect, and it doesn't take into account how powerful the agribusiness sector is, and that they need talent, just like high-skilled, STEM-related industries. So from the federal perspective, it is disheartening. We've worked very hard on it, and to see it stalled is disappointing. But continuing to push, for us, it's just continuing to push awareness with our federal legislators, namely about the economic impact, what the economic impact could be of comprehensive immigration reform. And if not, let's pull out a few pieces. We would advocate H-1B and H-2A. Let's move forward on those because they can really spur economic recovery in our region.
And to his credit, Governor Snyder has been a strong champion of being a pro-immigrant, welcoming governor. Sometimes different from folks in other states or in his party often. But so we need to mimic the Canadian side policies as much as we can. But it's, at least from Michigan context, it's been nice. It's nice to see a signal being sent that we want to be the most welcoming state to immigrants. So that's a good thing. Yes.
So over the years, a lot of people have talked about the need to move security away from the border. We talk about the border, but really, so that's the problem. Why can't we do these things farther away from the border? And there are instances of where it happens on a small scale. But I haven't heard much discussion today, or maybe I missed it, about the idea of perimeter security. I wondered if any of you guys had an update on that. It's just not something I've heard much about lately, but maybe I've been out of the loop.
You're never.
Anybody want to speak to that? Well, maybe Sarah, you're on the next panel, right? So you can read us what we should be doing about perimeter security, perhaps. Any perspective on that? Anybody have any? Anybody in the audience want to speak to perimeter security? right.
Yeah.
You know what it is? You know,
Yeah, I know.
what it is,
I-
yeah, but, yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah, Governor,
No, I want to make a comment on immigration.
go ahead.
No, what, everybody's asked their questions.
Okay, can we do perimeter security first?
Yeah, no, do it. Go ahead.
I mean, in all of the meetings that I'm attending from the Canadian, so I'm a liaison between our large importers and the Canadian government. And so there is a push from them to say, we want pre-clearance. We want these initiatives to take place because everything is stopped at that border, and we're sick and tired of it. Okay, so there are movements happening where there is a push saying we prefer this perimeter security so that it's a one-stop shop. So you've checked us, you've checked our goods, you've checked our our status. But in terms of, is there anything that I'm hearing that is significant towards that? Not right now. So that's why I didn't. Yeah.
That's what I did.
I mean, I can jump in on the pre-clearance. So, yeah, no exciting updates, except the Peace Bridge in Buffalo Niagara is one of 2 pilot projects in Beyond the Border that's going to have a commercial pre-clearance pilot of a pilot project. They're really hedging their bets on that one. And
Russian nesting dolls.
literally, they told us it was a pilot of a pilot, and it will be starting in December. But the length of time it's taken to get us to our pilot of a pilot has been exponential, and mostly hung up on a few security issues. Mostly, to tell you the truth, that CBP, the conversation about CBP officers carrying guns on Canadian soil is the hang up. I would say at most of at the pre-clearance pilots, but at ours, it has been the absolute stumbling block. Everything else is ready to go, but that one issue has been holding up the whole project.
Canadians not like guns or something?
They don't want.
What's wrong with them?
That's good.
Yeah.
Other question, I thought I saw, yes, sir.
Lori and I discussed this a moment ago. When I first arrived, one of the first meetings I had in Detroit was at Customs and Border Protection with the Center of Excellence and Expertise for Environment, for Automotive and Aerospace. They set up a few of these centers of expertise and excellence throughout the country, and I'm just wondering, as companies who do move the goods across the border, have you had to begin to deal with these new entities at CBP, and has there been a worthwhile initiative on their part?
So from our Faro U.S. Perspective, we're very big on mergers and acquisitions, so we're trying to spread out as large as we can throughout North America. One of our strategies is to locate in places where those CBP's centers of excellence are. We're finding that our clients, there's a sense of credibility with that when they find that we're working closely with them, when we're holding workshops with them. So there's definitely been a positive response from our stakeholders towards aligning ourselves with those centers of excellence. So it's been a positive reaction so far.
Ed, I thought I saw another one. Go ahead, Ed.
Go ahead and take care of her first. The other hand first.
There you go.
Hi, and thank you for your presentations today. In the Upper Peninsula, I don't hear a lot about it, but I'm sure there's some value to Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario, the Sioux Locks, and all of that in this discussion. Can you enlighten me on the value and importance of the exchange between Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan, Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario, and the Sioux Locks, the role it play? Do they expand on these discussions at all?
I don't know if any of our
I don't
panelists
know.
has the,
You'll answer that in the next.
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
so stay tuned. Sarah can answer.
Thanks,
Sarah Hubbard of Acuitas.
Stay tuned.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Stay tuned to this station to find out why the Sioux is so important. Ed?
Yeah, if we could go back to Laurie's comments about the thickening of the border, Laurie, I'd like to talk with you individually about that if we can, but the border systems are a combination of three things really: traffic volumes, processes, and capacity. And where in general are we falling down on the thickening part? Is it all three? Is it some of the three?
I would say it's all three. My office is just right outside, on the other side of the Ambassador Bridge. And so I was just saying to my co-panelists that oftentimes we'll want to have press releases outside of our office. And so we're out there, we've got the press, and we can't hear because there are so many trucks behind us. And that's a great thing for our business, but the problem is that those trucks are stopped because of the infrastructure issues that are at these various ports. They just, I don't care if you're a CT pad holder, I don't care if you're a FAST holder, I don't care what you are, you can't get across that border for whatever reason. So one of the issues is that there's just a lot of trucks that need to cross. So there's a significant volume. Then there's infrastructure issues. So it's just not placed. Things are not placed where they should be, and that is a much larger issue, more so than we're going to be able to handle here today. The other issue is that both CBP and CBSA are moving towards this electronic environment. The single window initiative is a phenomenal initiative, but it's going to take years before all of the quirks are worked out of these systems. So they are saying, yes, we want to have this electronic environment so that the paperwork is at the border prior to these trucks getting there, which will eliminate some of the problem. So right now what you have is you have half of the players working in this electronic environment and the other half working in a paper environment. So they show up to these border officers who have worked hours and hours and said, I don't know where my paperwork is. And that's the reality. So that one guy or girl is going to hold up the 100 trucks behind it. Okay? So that's what people don't see, but there is movement towards fixing those issues. It's just, it's going to take some time. So I think that there's a people issue, which Nadine touched on. So you've got the truck driver who's fast, they're fast approved. You've got the goods that, let's say the supplier's CityPat certified, but the driver himself might have criminality. The driver himself might have previous issues with respect to immigration that were not uncovered. And right now with the ease of, scanning of the passports and scanning of the permanent resident cards, there's information that's now coming up that wasn't coming up before. And CBSA has become more enforcement-minded than it ever was before with its new president. So there are a multitude of factors that are causing the delays. It's not just one thing, it's a combination. It's like a perfect storm, I would say.
Other questions? Governor, you want the last comment before we wrap up the panel? You wanted to-
No, I'm just going to say on immigration reform, I think the votes are there to enact some sort of comprehensive, reasonable immigration reform. Both the Democrats' interest in all the ethnic sympathies, and they've worked some things out with labor, and the Republican Business Committee, they all want to port this talent and these people, period. If the House ever votes on it, it will pass. It's passed the Senate. It's being held up for the same reason everything else is held up. They won't take a vote because there's 40 or 50 people, largely who are nativist, who are holding up poor John Boehner. And that's what's going on here. Let's just talk about what reality is. That's the reality. I think it will eventually change.
Thank you. Well, let's thank our panelists very much for